Good morning, everyone. I'm Annie, and today I'm setting up my Bridgerton bullet journal for April 2022. Alright, so I had to do Bridgerton for this month with the release of season 2 at the end of March. I was just way too excited to draw all of this and get all of this in my bullet journal. This is a series that I have really been enjoying. I've read the first 4 books of the series and I'm really enjoying it so far, and there are 5 left for me to read, which I can't wait to get a hold of and get started with. So for this cover page, well actually for the whole thing, I ended up starting out with all of the black. So this was a super intricate design that I did for this month, and it does actually continue on. I know I said last month was pretty intricate and pretty detailed, but this is most definitely more so. So I ended up starting out with all of the black, and I did all of that stuff first so that I could get all of that down and then just focus on the colour rather than going back and forth. So I started out by doing this cover page with the 2 dancing people, which to me symbolises Anthony and Kate, even though I'm not going to give any spoilers for the series. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let you all enjoy it at your own pace, even though I definitely binged it all in one day. But if you know everything about all of it. But yeah, so this symbolises Anthony and Kate from the books, in my opinion. On the other page, what I've done is I've taken a little excerpt from the book, specifically from Lady Whistledown Society Papers, which, as we know, is one of the biggest focus points of both the TV series and the books. So the border that I've used throughout the entire thing, and this was symbolized off of the paper that was used in the TV series. I really like this as a border. It's very simple with just the line and then the dots. I've altered it a little bit where I've done alternating dots just to give it that little bit of my own flair to it, I guess is how I'd describe it. And then this quote that I've used, I've just taken out of the book. And of course, the first quote in the book was from April, so I underlined the April to symbolize the month. So the Lady Whistledown Society paper border, as well as the vines and the fabric swatches, are a theme that continues on throughout the whole of this setup. So the fabric swatches I really wanted to include because I love the way that so many of the dresses are just full of colour, and I needed a way to include that, but I'm not very good at drawing dresses, so to me it kind of symbolised Madame Delacroix's modiste shop and all of the fabric that she has there. And I really liked the vines with all of the leaves. It felt very organic to me, and I could just imagine a ballroom with loads of vines and plants hanging from the ceilings and the chandeliers, and that was kind of the whole vibe I was going for. And of course, you will see the bee makes a repeat return on pretty much every single page. So for both my brain dump and my reading catch up, so on the front and back of my weeklies, I did both the Whistledown border and the vines. Now in March, I did use pretty much every single moment of space I had for my brain dump, and I used pretty much all of the space I had for my reading tracker. So I don't necessarily know if I'm going to end up with enough space, but we will see. But I really did not want to leave these pages blank. I really wanted them to have the same design. I really wanted to go all out because of the whole vibe of the balls. The balls really are a time for everyone to go all out with all of their planning and their decorating and everything. So I really wanted to keep that going. And of course I had to keep the Whistledown border with the simple line, and I just did the dots on the outside for this so it didn't interfere with anything. drawing in all of these leaves literally took me an age. So in total, not including all of the sketching I did before, but inking everything in black took me pretty much about 2 hours. And then all of the painting and the colouring in with pens, pencils, etc. that I do in a little bit took me about a total of 3 hours. So this was a really intensive setup for me. This is one of the longest I've done in a long time, but I think it came out really well. Had really bad hand cramp by this point, so I ended up having to take a break and wait until the evening to carry on with some colour. The colour that I've used for the painting of the vines was a custom blended colour that my other half very kindly made up for me. It's just a whole bunch of acrylic paints, and pretty much all I'm doing is I'm just dotting it on very loosely, very messily into the same vine shapes, just to give that little indication of colour, that little indication of depth. And then for the fabric swatches, I've used my Carin Brush Marker Pros for the base colour, and later on I do go in with some coloured pencils just to add a little bit of shading and a little bit of dimension to the fabric, because I wanted it to really look like it was all draped here, there and everywhere rather than just being flat. colours that I used for the fabric swatches, I also used to do my tabs, which I sort of styled again with the idea of the fabric swatches, just to bring in that little bit of colour. I felt at this point there was a lot of green going on and I didn't really want to paint them the same green, and I get really annoyed painting the tabs because they take an age to dry. All of this really did take absolutely forever to dry. I tried to include quite a bit of water in the paint so that it wasn't too thick, and also to thin it down so that it would hopefully dry a little bit quicker. But even so, that's why it took me so long, because I just sat there waiting for it to dry. All of my weeklies do include all of these leaves which I painted. I didn't include all of the footage of me painting every single weekly because it all kind of looks the same after a little while, but I really like that consistency when it's all finished of having it all very similar. And of course, each week does have a little bee. So yes, I stick my tongue out when I'm drawing with coloured pencils, and it looks absolutely ridiculous, but it's fine because I think the coloured pencils came out really well and they gave the dimension and depth that I wanted them to. So you gotta make sacrifices somewhere, and hey, if the only sacrifice is I look a little bit stupid, I'll take it. But yeah, so I use the coloured pencils just to give it a little bit of dimension and a little bit of depth to try and make it look a little bit more like fabric rather than just me having painted on these random splotches of colour. And I think it really worked. The yellow didn't particularly show up very well. I didn't use particularly high quality pencils, so I'm kind of not surprised. They were just sort of cheap little things. But the best colours I think were definitely the orange and the red. I think they showed up the best, and I think it looked really good overall. And then here is just the final flip through. So I was really happy with how this all came out. I think it came out exactly how I wanted it to. I love the colour, I love the vines. I didn't really want to include flowers on every single page. I think that would have been too much. So I'm really glad that I left those out. I was debating on doing that earlier. I really like the way that the text came out on this page, and the fact that the April just fits in and is really smooth with the rest of the design. I love the texture on the actual page that you get with the painted sections. I think when you flip through and when you physically run your hand over it, the change in the texture is really nice. It's almost like a matte effect because of adding the water to the acrylic, so it came out really nicely. So here I've just got my monthly and then my trackers, which are super simple, same as they always are. And my brain dump spread at the beginning of my weeklies, and then my reading tracker is at the end of my weeklies. And of course here you can see that every week had all these vines, and I had such horrendous hand cramp after doing all the black, but the bees look really cute, and overall I'm super happy with how it turned out. So let me know if you guys have read any of the Bridgerton books and what you think of this setup, if it inspired you at all. I'd love to chat more, so please check out my links below, as well as Julia Quinn, who is the author of the Bridgerton series. And let me know, did you binge the series or are you taking it one by one? I'd love to chat more about it. So, season 2 was based on the book called The Viscount Who Loved Me, and this is where I got the inspiration for the starter page, because this is the first half sentence of the book, and we can see that it was Lady Whistledown's society paper for the 20th of April, so of course I had to include it.